It's time to find and close more B2B sales without being sleazy or unethical. Hey, I'm Sam Dunning, founder over at BreakingB2B.com. In this episode, I'm diving into the exact strategies I use to find, qualify, and close B2B sales. Everything from initial prospecting ideas to running discovery calls and actually winning and closing business, how you can quickly identify dream clients, the type of businesses, sectors, and niches that they fall within, and how you can make that a consistent workflow. How you can run discovery calls and presentation calls and quickly weed out poor fit prospects and build trust and transparency with ideal clients, and everything else in between to make sure your B2B sales process is a proven one that can qualify and close the right kind of business. So, with that, let's dive into the episode.
What is ethical selling to you? What does that mean when you hear that phrase?
It's probably the opposite of what I used to do when I started in sales
Goodness.
because yeah, probably. I mean, look, my history, like I've worked in literally boiler rooms to selling things like data to call centers. I've worked literally in a call center selling ink cartridges or over the phone where one of the managers like in the morning was like beg, borrow, borrow, steal to get the deal over the line. And it was like one of those. And it's like you could almost go in there because I was so young at the time, I didn't really consider it. And like selling ink cartridges or toner and that kind of stuff to essentially the only people that would answer the phone at that time of day were probably retired because everyone else is probably working. This was before the era of COVID. Like we're talking probably 13, 14, 15 years ago now. And that was one of those environments really almost like I've worked in boiler rooms, I've worked in call centers, and that was almost the opposite of how I'd sell now. I'm almost kind of feel bad for some of the techniques that were into play, kind of pushing sales at all costs and trying to sell anything to anyone just to make a commission check. So whereas now you've kind of learnt the hard way, and especially with what I sell now, like I'm selling SEO, content marketing to companies investing anywhere from 3.5K dollars to 10K plus a month. Like it's a significant investment, right?
Mm.
And at the same time, we've running a business, I've got a reputation that I want to uphold. So I don't want to sell anything to anyone. I want to make sure first they're actually a good fit for who we can help. So like I talked about earlier, we primarily in our case, we're mainly B2B tech and SaaS companies, usually the ones that are fast growth or got a bit of funding behind them or want to start ramping things up on the inbound engine. And that means that a lot of companies might not be the best fit. And it's my role as a founder, as a business person, as a marketer, as a salesperson to, like we talked about in our first episode a year or two back, in that initial call, that initial discovery call, to weed out, like to be the first person to say, if I don't think you're best placed to work with us, perhaps that could be because the offer doesn't sit right. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you don't have the cash to invest. Maybe I don't think you're its best place. Maybe I think you should invest your cash elsewhere, whether that would be paid media or ramping up things you're already doing, or maybe it's doing more of what you're doing or asking for more referrals instead of going for SEO. Like it's my responsibility to do that because one, it's not going to come back and bite me in the ass. Like a few months into an SEO program, for example, they might think, well, Sam, you've promised me the earth and we've wasted all our cash and we're not happy. Like I don't want that to happen. So I'd rather be very upfront and say, look, I don't think this is the best fit right now. Like wait a bit of time, then come back or try this other partner, or I know someone else that might be able to help you based on where you're at. Whereas, of course, if someone is a good match, they do have the problem we fix. They are facing the impact of not fixing it. They have the motivation to do it. They're well equipped to invest. They have the cash. They have the resource. They have the understanding of how it works. Then it makes sense. So I think it's all about taking the time to, like we talked about at the top, understand who you serve best and the niches, and then taking that time to realize that not everyone you're going to have a sales conversation with, especially in the demo stage or discovery stage, is going to be best placed to work with you, and seeing a bit of a looking at it from a long-term lens, because if you're going for that short-term hit, most of the time it's going to bite you back in the ass, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And well, And then the other thing, if it's not that, it's that the approach you take, people will push back against you. I think being pushy just creates pushiness back, doesn't it?
Mm.
So, I think you described that beautifully. It's just like you read the book already. It's not out yet. I'm not on that. I mean, all I've done is modeled the best practice, the kind of stuff you're talking about, and then kind of made that accessible to people.
Are you tired of competitors ranking above you on Google, stealing traffic, leads, and mindshare from dream clients every time they're searching for your services or offers on Google? At Breaking B2B, we fix that with our unusual approach to SEO, content marketing, and websites. We craft B2B SEO strategies and websites for revenue, not vanity. Head over to breakingb2b.com to check our results, pricing, or to book a call with me.
But thinking about your industry then, and kind of old Sam, we'll talk about old Sam and new Sam. Yeah, old Sam, pushy approach, doing that stuff. Because you didn't know better, and the responsibility was really on the people who were training you, teaching you, encouraging you to do that. That approach, can it be applied, or do people apply that in your world in selling SEO? As in any cost, beg, borrow, steal, I think you said, push it on, just take
Oh,
the check, whatever, and I don't really care because I've closed the deal.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do, not just in SEO, right? But in pretty much any sector, I'm sure you can find sales folks that sales reps, be them account execs or sales managers, whatever. I think you can pretty much put it in most industries. So I don't want to necessarily just pigeonhole SEO folks, but I'm sure in marketing in general, in advertising and in other sectors, there always are. But I suppose from my point of view, which I can only give, was more because I was more ignorant. Like, I never really got a solid basis of sales training. And it wasn't until probably 5, 6 years ago when I think back then, I think what motivated me to start investing in my own personal development, certainly from a sales perspective, was probably, yeah, it probably was about six or so years ago, was when I saw one of Benjamin Dennehy's videos, just literally by chance on YouTube. And he was giving a training on, I think it was something to do with upfront contracts and how everyone runs a sales call in the wrong way. That you should kind of clearly state, like, it's not for the prospect to tell you what's going to happen. It's for you to outline it and see if they fit in with how your process goes. And then I saw that, and then I started getting into Sandler books, like you can't teach a kid to ride a bike at a seminar. And I thought, oh shit, everything I've been doing is like completely backwards. And once that nail clicked, I realized there's probably a lot that I could do to improve how my sales calls are going and how my prospecting is going and how everything in my process is going right now. And I was just ignorant to it before. And especially myself as a founder, as a business owner, like I think a lot of people before they go into running a business think, oh, I just need to deliver the service and that's it. Whereas 80% of your time is actually trying to get the business, have those sales conversations, get the deals over the line, then account management. Obviously, this changes as you grow your team, but a lot of it is actually sales. I mean, being able to deliver a product or a service is a baseline. Like that should go without saying, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny actually, and I've got on this soapbox a couple of times in that people people don't want to be salesy, and you see it bandied around LinkedIn and all over, salesy, salesyness, blah, 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 horrible. And I think that sometimes means they don't do sales training. They think me or Benjamin or whoever is going to come along and make them super salesy. Whereas
Mm,
actually, like you just said, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to take you from what you think sales might be
yeah.
to doing the stuff which is way more comfortable for the customer, more effective. You're going to be happy with yourself as well. I think that's a really important point. But it's kind of misunderstood, and like this perception is, oh no, I'm not going to do any sales training. So A, you don't do anything, trouble. B, you do the stuff which you've now seen on telly and usually what's a comedy show or something, and mess it all up. It's
Mm,
again, you probably seen that and experienced that and want to help people and kind of give them a shake and say, oh, come on, look, just learn how to do it better. You'll like it more.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, certainly. Like I say, like going back 10, 12, 13 years, like I talked about earlier, when I was working like a boiler room setup or a call center setup, it's like when you don't realize it until you almost realize the error of your ways. Like when you're, like you said, when you're pressing someone or you're pushing someone to try and buy something, it's like the worst thing you can do. So I think I don't know if I heard this from Josh Braun or someone else, but people buy for their reasons, not yours. Like it couldn't be more true.
Yeah.
And I see, because he posts so much on LinkedIn, I just happen to see his stuff in my feed all the time. And it's like he often says something like, when people put up a barrier of resistance, go with it. And people aren't used to you going with it. Like,
Yeah.
for example, in our space, they might say, well, Sam, you're super expensive. Like, I can get SEO for like $500 a month. Why should I spend a minimum of 3.5K with you? And I'll be like, yeah, we are expensive. You're right. Like, I mean, I'm guessing you've reached out for me for a reason, right? If you start going with that resistance,
Yeah.
people are throwing back. They're like, what? He agrees with
Yeah.
me. Like, I better tell him why I'm thinking about using him. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
psychology in sales is a crazy thing, right?
It's there is so much, which is one of the, I get quite frustrated when people are sort of saying, well, we've done our sales training. What, for life? I mean, yeah. I mean, that isn't a conversation, but that's almost how it is sometimes. Yeah, we did that 5 or 6 years ago. But basically, what they do is they repeat the same training. It's usually presentation skills. 'Cause we like that. It's good fun. Come
Mm,
along, talk about something you know, rather than you look at, I mean, the advancement of tech and all sorts of different things, but just kind of keeping that saw sharp and just learning new things. I listed the other day stuff I've done. I've learned NLP. I've gone on improv courses. I've learned coaching. I've learned speaking. All these things to add more to the repertoire, so I can do this stuff even better.
hmm
People seem to say, "Nah, it's all right. I'm done now. Finished."
It is weird, isn't it? It is weird. I mean, and it's almost like there's so like sales training, for example, there's so many angles to it. You'll know this 100 times better than myself. But I think the one thing I see that's probably neglected the most is prospecting training. And I think from all the stuff I see, and I used to be like this, like going back to my early years, I used to think closing was everything. When I've really learned that opening is the new closing. I think it was Justin Michael or maybe Josh Braun that said that. But it really is. If you're a business owner or if you're a salesperson that can continuously open doors to folks that fit your ideal client profile, i.e., they're the niche you want to serve, they have the problem you solve, they're motivated to fix it, and most importantly, they've got cash to invest in it and they believe it's a good offering. Like if you can consistently strike conversations with them, even if you're not the best closer, you're going to do well because you can have a consistently fat pipeline that you can then choose which deals you want to pursue. Like that's one of the best offerings. And whether that means is some kind of cold outreach, LinkedIn outreach, content creation, SEO, paid media, webinars, whatever, demand gen, whatever channel it is, it doesn't matter. But if you can continually find a means to get those conversations rolling, you're going to do well to struggle.
I think going back to the list you just made there, the niche, the problem, that they're motivated and they can pay. Yeah, once you've got that, then your message, it's going to land.
Mm,
You can walk around with a sandwich board on.
mm,
Actually, I saw someone who
exactly.
was walking around with a sandwich board on the other day.
Ah,
Literally, yeah, from Pure Gym. He'd got this thing. I said, "You have that?" Yeah.
that's
So
that's
that's
given
got to
me
be
an
fun.
idea for a new skit.
Get yourself down Pure Gym. They've got them. Mind you, will have
Nice.
one and stick your own thing at the top
Give him
of
10
it.
quid.
No, but well, and then video the public responses to it, even better. um, but when you've got that, like you say, that will go into whether you are going to cold call or message on or whichever, that you'll be so clear that conversations will start. So it's interesting, kind of going off on a sort of like tangent. I wonder why prospecting training isn't something that's so popular. It's a strange one.
I don't know. I think there are folks that do it right. I think it's more that it's the most difficult part of selling. Like I certainly find it is. Like I'm a business owner, right? And even though I sell SEO as one of our main offerings, and that's how we get some inbounds ourselves, I appreciate that not everyone's going to come inbound. So for example, that's why like I recently did a podcast on my show Breaking B2B where I tested, I think it's 5 or 7 channels. One was cold email, one was an outsourced cold marketing agency. One was cold calling. So I cold called like VPs and marketing CMOs at B2B SaaS to see how that landed. I think one was some kind of LinkedIn program, and then one was something else. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but it's one of the recent episodes on the show. And yeah, essentially, because looking for new ways to start conversation, like realizing that you've got to work out what channels your prospects, so in your case, like we were talking about then, the niche that you want to serve and the target market and the job roles within that, what channels they're receptive to. And sometimes there are no-brainer ones, like they might be listening to an industry podcast. So if you've got the cash, you might look to guest on that podcast or sponsor it or something like that. Sometimes that might be giving it a try to see if they're receptive to cold calls, if you can nail your messaging right, or cold email, or of course doing an SEO program or a paid media program to attract them inbound. But like, there's only so much you can capture for one channel, if that makes sense. So it's usually starting with what makes the most sense, whereas this prospect most likely to have their time and start there, and then going from there onwards, really.
Yeah. I want to sell rugby shirts. Well, don't go down the local football club. Yeah, get another local rugby club. You're probably going to get better response there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but no, it's interesting. I mean, you've said it a couple of times now in different forms, and I'm just going to put it into some of the ethical selling language that I've been using, which is that informed decision making is a key part of ethical sales. And so for me, that starts at the very beginning. It's not the onus on us. It's always the onus is always on us, but it's to qualify. So actually, we are talking with people that are likely to make a decision that's in their best interests. And if it's not, qualify out. Don't push them into something. Don't
Mm.
waste your own time doing that. And then as we kind of move along the process, like you've said, I'm understanding what you're trying to do now. And I think we might not be the best option. Here, have a look at this. Have a look at this. And that's massively counterintuitive to a lot of people. That they'll find that pretty uncomfortable.
It's
But again, you nailed why you would do it. So I want to keep your reputation intact. That's one customer. There's
exactly.
however many, I don't know, million people could buy your stuff out there that you
It's
don't want to be tarnishing that. So do the right thing, and what goes around comes around. And they'll probably introduce you to the right person by being decent. I think that was the word you used, decent.
Yeah, exactly. And some of this stuff you have to learn the hard way, like I have over the years.
Well,
And
tell us another mistake. We love mistakes.
no, I will do in a set. I was just thinking one thing that can be useful at that stage is if you're thinking like, oh, I'm losing out on all these opportunities because they're not a good fit. And that's probably links through to stuff you've talked about a lot in the past, like finding partners that can fulfill your gaps. So as an example, like we focus on SEO, right? But we don't do LinkedIn ads. So there's a company called Impactable, a guy called Justin Rowe runs. So if someone mentions LinkedIn ads, I'll be like, well, I know these guys. They're trustworthy. We send a lot of prospects, a lot of clients their way. Like speak to them. Or likewise, if someone needs another kind of offering, another paid media offering we don't do, I'll be like, well, speak to these folks. Or maybe someone's not quite in budget range for us. I'll say, well, speak to this other guy. Like I'm friends with a lot of my competitors because it means that they might have opportunities for us. And likewise, we might have poor fit prospects that aren't the best for us, but they might be better matched to them. And also, when you serve that prospect, they remember it, don't they? Like
Yeah.
people will gain more confidence in you if you say, I don't think you're ready just now. You're probably better off to see a conversation here, or maybe just consume some of this I don't know, this podcast that I've made, or this guide, or this walkthrough, or this YouTube video, whatever. This could probably help you do it yourself for a while, and then when you've kind of got a bit more resource, come back. So it
Yeah.
just, like you say, when you put the interest of the prospect first, it's always going to pay you back, or they might refer someone else your way. Um, but to go to your way, I suppose another issue which might be useful is again, because I know when we first chatted, we talked about discovery. So I suppose the actual sales call, so that could be a demo, a presentation, or whatever you call it, which is usually a secondary call after you've had that initial kind of qualification call or discovery, whatever you call it, which is more suited to higher ticket sales, where you might bring in the rest of the board or the rest of the decision committee or whoever it may be. I think that what I used to do completely wrong was almost let the prospective clients lead the call. Because you'll find, like, as soon as you fire up these conversations on a Zoom or a Teams or however, or face to face, they'll probably start throwing questions at you, and you'll be trying to go through like a system that you might have, and then you'll just be thrown off because you'll be trying to answer questions like, how much does it cost? When can you start? Where are you based? Like all this stuff. It's like having a system where you can say, look, this is what's going to happen. This is when I'll get to your questions. This is what I'd like to go through today. And I'd also like to clearly agree, are you okay to kind of agree on a next step? And that next step might be no. It might be yes, or it might be let's get someone else from the team involved. Like having a systematic way to run these calls helps everyone, helps the prospect, helps yourself. Um, do they always go 100% smooth? Of course not. This is real life. We're dealing with people. Like I'm an idiot. Sometimes other people are idiots. Um, yeah, it's never going to get 100% smooth, but it certainly helps.
Yeah. No, no, it does. Let me take you back though. So this Avengers Assemble type approach, where you're saying, hey, look, we know what you're trying to do because you're in business, and I've got a little part of it. But if I bring my other mates in, actually, we can give you that whole pack, the whole package, so that it will work better for you faster. But as a way of approaching, as kind of going to the market and then presenting that united front, that's a smart play, and it's
Mm.
something I think people do miss on a little bit. I just thought of another skit for you there, mate.
Well, Avengers.
Well, no, you have got a superhero alter ego, haven't you?
Oh, SEO man. Yeah.
SEO man is now going to have a couple of whatever men and women supporters. You're going to have to look if we've probably gone off track here, and you're thinking, what are you pair on about? Have a look at Sam's YouTube. You'll see what I'm talking about with SEO man and pirate boy and all this.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that you said there was DIY, where you've created material that when you're saying, hey, this might not be right for you, actually, it might not be right for you. So it might be right for you, but not yet. To then say, look, why don't you go and have a look at this? This is where I've laid out how you can do it yourself so that people, well, that's that's the right thing for them. But actually, then they're buying into your way of thinking. And again, your trust factor, your trust quotient is going to go up massively.
Mm.
I was chatting to someone
Yeah.
yesterday who did that.
Okay.
Literally, yeah. We're talking about audiobook. Talks about how much it would be to record. I know the guy, know him well, not really well, reasonably well. And he said, look. He said, look, I could talk about how you could do it yourself. Now I know that's not a recommended thing to do. It's not a bad idea. But I said, oh, well, okay, let's have that conversation. He didn't then say you could do this, but you shouldn't. You do this, but you shouldn't. You do this, you shouldn't. He just said, look, I can talk you through it. In the end, I said, look, don't bother because I don't think I'm going to. But he was very happy to give me this
Mm.
alternative, inverted commas, at the expense of me dropping a load of cash for him to do the thing for me. Guess where I'm going to go when I do it?
Yeah.
Of course I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, preparing that material that you can point people towards. So you're sort of pointing them towards yourself, so to speak. Yeah, you're not losing the business, but you're sort of keeping them
It's,
front of mind.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. And like you said, I suppose there's a few angles. One is that putting the prospect's best interests at the core, like you said there. So it might be like in your case, you might think, well, yeah, you could, this is actually a way to do it yourself. So if time or resource or cash or whatever else was an issue, like these are the way. And I even offer like a DIY course that's like, I don't know, a fifth of the normal investment. And like you said, you've then built that trust with him immediately because he's not tried to ram I don't know, a
Mm.
big investment down your neck. He's actually said, this is one way, these are the pros and cons, or this is the other way, and these are the pros and cons. Or the other case, the other useful, I suppose, if you've got your own content or your company has got useful content, be it educational podcasts or video or articles or webinars, whatever, is in the follow-up process. Like I've had feedback from prospects specifically just because I knew they were going to take a couple of weeks to discuss the solution internally before they decided. So every few days, I would just send them something that I thought was useful, like this podcast explains what we were talking about in more detail, or this video explains a bit more about that problem you're trying to fix, or here's a recent example of something I thought you might like. So we've had two or three cases just because they said that you were sending us actually useful stuff. We were more inclined to use you. And I suppose if you're a seller, if you're a rep at a company, it's a bit more difficult because you might not necessarily stay at that company for ages. So creating content yourself might not be the best use of your time. But if your company's got your marketing team or your founders, whatever, have got stuff that's relevant, then leverage that. If it's your own business, then of course you might have stuff that you can lean on.
Yeah, I am a big fan of people creating their own stuff. I just think it helps you stand out so well. So even
Oh
if
yeah.
it's there, it's on the company website, it's on the company. Take it, put your own spin on it.
Mm,
Just grab your phone, talk into camera, write a little article about it, or post about it, and put it there. Even if it's not regular, I think you and I are daily LinkedIn posters, aren't we? Non-stop, relentless, like Terminator.
yeah, it's true.
But even if you're only doing it a little bit, just to know it's there, so that then you can say to somebody, oh, actually, well, yeah, what we're saying here might not be the right time. But if you go and look at what I posted here a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, I'll send you the link to it. It's there, but it's your face next to it. It's
Mm.
you doing that, and it's you that's positioning yourself as the person to speak to as and when the time's right. That's
What
why I'd
I've
encourage that.
It's a good point. What I've found a lot is in selling, like in that process, whether you're sending a recap, maybe after a discovery call, like that interim between a discovery call and the presentation, you don't have to do that much to stand out, right? Like just by going on to Vidyard or doing a Loom video, just to say, here's a quick like in my case, I might dive into a tool called Hrefs where I can get SEO data on their site and say, look, this is the particular issue with your traffic decline. Here is some quick wins that I can see. This is literally what you can show the rest of your team and they can jump on and clearly see like where the issue is and where the gaps are and where we can attack just by doing that little video, like spending a few minutes, then pinging that across to them and the rest of the team and giving a recap, you've stood out from most other teams that will, just can't be bothered to do that. Just by making a small 10-minute effort.
Yeah. Which you want the business, don't you? So, and it is the right piece of information to be moving the thing along so they can make that informed decision. Have you ever written a post or created content as the result of a conversation
All the
so that you
time.
can then point somebody towards it? Rather than, oh, here's something I created a couple of months ago. It's oh, interesting. Scuttles off to studio, creates something, puts it up and going, here's something I created. All the time. Is that the answer? I missed that.
Almost. I mean, I've certainly done LinkedIn posts where I've maybe spoken to a marketer or a founder and then had something I thought was half interesting or different or unusual to talk about, like why I guided them away from SEO is one that I've done before because
Yeah,
they were doing other campaigns and it didn't make sense, and here's why, and here's what you should consider for your company. So that kind of stuff, like
yeah.
conversations are always useful to get others' point of view and take
Well, if you think
insights.
about it, I mean, it's instant feedback, isn't it? That's what's going through this customer's mind, this prospect's mind. Well, it's probably going through others. I mean, they've just given you a gift there that, yes, you're writing it for them and pointing them towards it, but a load of other people see it. So actually,
Mm.
this, what do I post about? What do I write about? Well, at weekends, put picture of cats. That works. But in the week, when you're hearing stuff like this and thinking, well, that will be the post that would serve them, write it, record it, do it. It again, it's the bar's fairly low to set ourselves apart just by doing that.
Mm. I
That's,
agree.
yeah,
Agree.
cool. So, I mean, this sounds it's almost like a masterclass in here on informed decision making, which is such a key part of the ethical model or the elements that we've got to think about. I'd like to touch on transparency and your take on this on 'cause we're verging into that anyway, but just yeah, transparency is another important part of ethical selling. What's your
Yeah.
take? How do you go about
My take is you should get Todd Caponi on this, not me.
that?
You've probably
We
had him on,
have.
haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a super smart
Oh,
guy.
he's been on the podcast twice. He's in the book.
Nice.
It's like, yeah, if you can't use that word and not think about it, can
Yeah,
you?
I was gonna say Todd Caponi, the transparency
Hi,
sale.
Todd.
He's like the OG, the OG. Yeah, I suppose a lot of it is what we've covered, really, isn't it? Transparency. It's like from a selling perspective, just from my own take. So I suppose it's being as upfront and clear as possible at every stage. So whether that's like an initial discovery call and just saying like, here's what we're gonna cover. Like I'm gonna ask, I don't know, starting by saying, what would you like to have happen by the end of this call? Okay, sure. I'll make sure we cover that. Like, I've got to ask a few quick questions initially, like to be very upfront. We're not a fit for every business we speak to, and I'm sure you folks are the same. Like, it might be by the end of this call you feel we're not best placed. Feel free to let me know. I take zero offense. We can always keep in touch. It might be I feel we're not the best partner for you, and if so, do you mind if I tell you? And I'll even try and point you to another partner if I think that they might be a better fit. If not, we can keep in touch. Or likewise, the third option is we might both agree that there's some business to be done. And usually that's either we work on an assessment, we do a paid audit, or we do a secondary like presentation call with the rest of your team. Is that okay? people usually say yes. That kind of stuff. But then I suppose, and then similar kind of process, like outlining that if you do a demo call or a presentation call or whatever that is. Then also, I suppose, when you've landed a client, like pushing back as well. So if maybe a client's trying to steer the ship, let's say, so in my world, maybe it's SEO and they're trying to overtake an article or a piece of content we're writing or an update to the website, and we don't think it's best serving their goals, i.e., they're trying to go one way, but we're saying, look, you actually want to, in this case, I don't know, capture relevant prospects from that are searching for your offer or searching for the problem you fix on Google. Like, we think this is actually going to best serve your needs, and here's why. And I think most clients, 99% of the time, they'll appreciate the pushback because you're serving what they actually told you they want to do. So those are a few things that pop into mind.
Yeah. Oh, I think Todd will be proud of you with that answer. That's good.
He's got
Yeah,
some
no,
interesting stuff, man. I remember what he talked to me. I can't remember what he said, but I asked him when he came on my show ages ago about pricing, and there was a few things he said. I need to look back at that episode because he said some really good stuff.
I mean, I'm thinking he would definitely talk about lead with a flaw. So it's
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
saying, hey, if this is important to you, we're probably not the best. But
Mm,
if this, and this is, then yes, we are.
mm,
And then it's probably to do with the whole hiding pricing. Oh, can you just tell me the price, Sam? Later. Let me just value stack. No, just tell me
yeah.
now. No, later. Tell me now. No. Don't tell me then. I've stopped listening.
Yeah. It's
Well,
like,
that's probably more Marcus Sheridan, isn't it, as much as everything else. But there's some really good people out there talking about this sort of stuff. You know, we've named up quite a few there. I'm going to name drop you in those hallowed circles now, mate, because you've given us a really realistic. I used to be able to speak decently. A very realistic view on how to do some of this stuff, very, very practically, and what you actually do as a, as a business owner, as a founder who's selling.
and there we have it. A big thank you to 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗀 for having me on the Sales Today podcast. This was a bit of an unusual episode where I dive into my sales strategy and a B2B landscape. As always, if you enjoyed the show, why not join thousands of legends enjoying my weekday emails for unusual B2B marketing tips, strategies, experiments, ideas, and more. Head over to breakingb2b.com and hit that newsletter tab. And with that, I should catch you on the next episode of Breaking B2B. Cheers for tuning in.